Well, hello, everybody. Your glasses are tinted, huh? Is that from the outside sun?
Transition, yeah.
Man, hasn't the weather been beautiful lately? It's just
It's gonna become clear in a moment.
yeah. My daughter was home. I'm sure Jay's children were home too during the holidays, but it wasn't very nice, weather-wise. You expect Southern California weather to be warm at this point.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, it's good now. It is. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to be here today. So I think today's discussion is going to help give you a competitive edge for 2026. So today we're talking about the 2026 OC real estate launch. That's my own title, by the way. Orange County Marketplace Opportunities and Compliance. I know the word compliance might make some of you groan because that's more of my forte, right, as opposed to sales. But please stick with me. By the end of this presentation, you're going to see that understanding and executing compliance isn't a burden. It's literally your competitive advantage. So the agents who understand these rules will dominate. The agents who ignore them will have transactions fail. So here's what we're going to cover today. So first, the actual December 2025 market data, not predictions, not hopes, real data. We're going to look at what's happening in Orange County right now, and we're going to talk about what that means for you and how to position yourself. Second, how to succeed in a balanced market. This isn't 2021 anymore. Sellers just can't list and wait for bidding wars. Everything has changed. I'm going to show you how to position both buyers and sellers for success in this new reality. Third, two critical compliance requirements that go into effect or require major, bless you, John, or require major attention in 2026. These aren't optional. These aren't nice to know. They're mandatory. And if you get them wrong, your transactions are delayed or fail. By the end of today, you'll have a clear action plan for Q1, Q2, and beyond. You'll know exactly what you need to do to position yourself as the professional in your market. So let's begin. Would you go to slide 2, please? So let's look at the December 2025 numbers. These are the most current statistics we have, and they tell us a very clear story about where the market is and where it's headed. Excuse me. Start with this number. Median home price in Orange County is 1.27 million as of December 2025. Now you'll notice that that's down 7% from November. Before anyone panics, let me explain. That's seasonal normalization. November had some holiday shopping activity, December slowed. That's normal. But here's what's important. Prices are not appreciating. We're in stabilization mode. If you're talking to sellers who think they're going to see 5 or 10% appreciation in 2026, that's not realistic. Modest growth, 0 to 3% range, depending on the submarket. That's what you should be discussing. December sales, 1,606 homes sold. That's up 10.2.3% from November, and it's up 0.25% year over year. So that is a month over month recovery and slight year over year growth. So we're not seeing a boom. We're not seeing, but we are seeing steady activity. So the market is functioning. So here's the number that matters more than anything else, price to list ratio. December 2025 was 98.74%. Let me say that again. Price to list ratio, 98.74%. Do you understand what that means? It means homes are selling below asking price, not at asking, but below. The days when a seller could list at $1 million and obtain $1.1 million, that's gone. It's extinct in this marketplace. If you have sellers who think they're going to get over asking, you need to have a conversation with them using this data. Here's the market. Homes are selling at or slightly below asking. We need realistic pricing from day one. Days on market, 54 days. That's up 15% year over year. Homes are sitting longer than they were a year ago. So that's December's seasonal slowdown, yes, but the trend is real. Homes are not flying off the market like they did in 2021, 2022. That means every aspect of your listing matters. Presentation, photography, pricing, marketing. You can't get away with mediocre anymore. Inventory, 3,598 active homes. That's up 8.4% year over year. And it's the highest December inventory in 3 years. For buyers, that's fantastic. More choices. For sellers, that's a reality they need to understand. More competition. For you as an agent, that means you need to position listings extremely well to stand out in the crowd. So the overreaching picture, we're in a balanced pricing discipline market where execution matters more than luck. You can rely on market momentum. You can't rely on market momentum to carry you. You have to work harder, be smarter, and execute better. So that's actually good news for professionals like you. Could you go to the next slide, please? So buyer opportunities by submarket. Orange County is not one market. So let's say that with me. It's not one market. It's multiple distinct submarkets with each of its own dynamics, its own buyer profiles, its own price points. So if you're thinking Orange County real estate as a single category, you're leaving money on the table. Let me walk you through the 3 submarkets we're going to focus on. Irvine, it is a family-focused type of market. The median price is $1.5 million. November days on market, 73 days. Now, 73 days is not a disaster, but it tells us something important. Irvine is a school-driven market. Parents buy here for schools. That's the emotional driver. The problem is agents thinking school reputation justifies premium pricing. Here's the reality. A home listed at $1.75 million in Irvine because it has a good school district doesn't mean it attracts buyers. Nobody is paying a premium just for schools now. What attracts buyers is a home that's realistically priced, well presented and positioned in a great community. An overpriced home in Irvine sits for 100 plus days. It's a long time. A properly priced Irvine home marketed to school-focused families sells in 50 to 55 days. So that's your conversation with Irvine sellers. Pricing discipline, you have negotiating power now. Excuse me, missed that. That's the key. Price it right from day one, and that's critical. Present it beautifully, and it moves. Price it high, hoping to negotiate down, and you'll sit for months. Then you'll be reducing the price below where you should have listed it originally. What about Irvine buyers? Well, tell them you have negotiating power now. First-time buyers, there's inventory. The school district is excellent, but you're not paying premium anymore. Let's find the right home at the right price. Tustin is considered a value play. This is an opportunity for 2026. First-time buyers are looking at Tustin, and that's why, because it offers value. You get into a good community with emerging infrastructure, solid bones, and real appreciation potential at a price point that works for first-time buyers. Tustin inventory is moving. Buyers are active. Interest is strong. Here's what's important. If you have sellers in Tustin, this is the time. Price them right and they move. The market is there. The demand is here. If you have to position it, you have to position it correctly. And frankly, if you're thinking about building a specialty, Tustin is an opportunity. By mid-2026, there's going to be agents in the Tustin area known as specialists, agents who have deep knowledge of that market, who understand the sub-market dynamics, who can speak credibly to first-time buyers about value and potential. So that's a differentiator. That builds a business. The third aspect of my discussion today is Newport Beach. Premium cooling market. Median asking price, $5.75 million for single-family residences. Average days on market, 150 days. That's median active inventory of 33 homes. Let's be honest about what that means. The luxury market, our luxury homes are sitting and getting price reductions. In fact, 26% of Newport Beach listings have been price reduced. Pretty substantial. Think about that. 1 in 4 homes in the luxury market has had to reduce the price. I look at the Orange County Register every single day, and every Saturday I see the same agent advertising the same home for months and months, and I see price reductions, or they're just sitting there. They're just not moving. So I'm not looking at the MLS. I can just see the advertising itself. So this is not a time to tell Newport Beach sellers your home is going to appreciate. This is a time to tell them you're in a highly selective market. Luxury buyers are not rushing in, they're selective. Your property needs to be flawless. Your pricing needs to be realistic. And your timeline needs to reflect that this is a long game market. So be honest with them. The buyer message in Newport is different too. Premium markets, plenty of selection, room for negotiation. We can find a home that meets your needs and your budget. The unifying theme across all three submarkets: we're in a balanced or buyer favorable market. Inventory is up. Competition is real. The days of sellers just listing and collecting offers are over. That requires smarter positioning from you. That's the discussion you need to have with sellers. So go on to slide 4, please. Thank you. So critical 2026 compliance, FinCEN reporting. Now we're going to get into the compliance piece. This is serious. I need everyone in this room to pay close attention. And this goes into effect March 1st. That's about 6 to 7 weeks from now. And it's going to affect a significant portion of all your all cash transactions. So the FinCEN anti-money laundering rule, FinCEN, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, is part of the U.S. Department of the Treasury. They created new reporting requirements and actually in regards to all cash real estate transactions. So here's what triggers the rule. If a property, we're talking 1 to 4 units, so single family, duplexes, triplexes, or fourplexes, that property is being purchased entirely in cash or by an entity or a trust, the FinCEN rule applies. So it's critical. It's about entity structure. It's not about the amount of money. I'm going to say that again. It's about the entity structure. So a $300,000 cash purchase by an LLC, well, that triggers the rule. A $3 million cash purchase by an individual does not trigger the rule. So the distinction is everything. So what does escrow have to do in a transaction like this? They have to collect beneficial ownership information. That means they need to know who actually owns the entity, who's behind the trust. They can't just close to ABC Real Estate Holdings LLC without knowing who the beneficial owners are. That's the entire point of the rule, transparency to prevent money laundering. So let me just go over the information that's escrow must collect. And this is something, if it's an all cash transaction, an entity buyer, you must comply with, otherwise the transaction will not close, or the best case is it's going to be delayed. So entity, S Corp, C Corp, LLC, or someone's personal trust, a revocable family trust. Those all fall within the guidelines if they're paying all cash for a transaction. And if it's going to close on March 1st or after that, it's applicable. So information to collect. An entity, well, legal name, doing business as, the formation date, the legal structure and taxpayer ID, beneficial ownership information. So for each individual who exercises substantial control or owns 25% or more of the entity, they must provide their legal name, date of birth, residential address, citizenship, and taxpayer identification. So this is something that buyers had not had to provide before. Dramatic difference, plus a government-issued photo ID. Individuals representing the entity or trust, names, addresses, date of birth, citizenship, taxpayer IDs of anyone signing for the entity.
So what about the foreign people who want to buy?
If foreign people that want to buy, if they don't have a taxpayer ID, then I would suggest that it could cause a transaction to fail Before, it didn't matter if somebody was a non-resident alien. That's why we need to do this early. There is a new form that's going to be included. We're going to be giving them, any buyer, that form, or you, when you're representing a buyer, you should have that discussion with them. And that's part of today's discussion, really. You need to be sure that you're notifying them of the requirements for this transaction to close. Otherwise, I think that's a very good question. It's likely going to fail if they are non-resident aliens and they don't have a valid taxpayer ID. Big difference. If they're not paying all cash, then it's acceptable. But if it's an all cash transaction, that's what should raise the idea or the thought in your head, okay, I need to collect this information now, not wait until I'm involved in a transaction.
Richard, if it's a foreign buyer, and it's all cash.
And they don't have
under their name.
And they don't have and they're a non-resident alien, they don't have a taxpayer ID.
They are a non-resident. They would not have a taxpayer ID. Maybe. Well, actually, they would. In most cases.
If they have a green card, they have a taxpayer ID. But if they don't have a green card,
if they have a green card, they would have a taxpayer ID.
Yes, that would be acceptable.
This would not trigger this rule.
No, the rule is going to be triggered if it's an all cash transaction. I guess what I haven't gotten to, just to be sure, the rule is going to be triggered if it's an entity buyer. If it's an individual, it doesn't trigger the rule.
Yes, that's my question.
So I'm glad you brought that up, just to identify the difference.
Before, when it's a cash, sometimes they create an LLC like 3 months or 6 months before. They're supposed to have a bank account 3 months before or 6 months before to make sure that.
There's no time frame, but actually, what an invalid transaction would consist of, if somebody they write an offer and the LLC is not validly formed at that point in time. I've witnessed things like that. They say, okay, use this LLC name, and it's not a validly formed entity. We don't actually have a valid contract with doing something like that. But the problem is going to be if you form an LLC, foreign or domestic, and the individuals within that LLC don't have taxpayer IDs, that very well could cause the transaction to fail. Because we're going to look at whomever the person is signing on behalf of that entity or an LLC in your example for their underlying information. And in addition to that, you're going to have to provide documentation in terms of where those funds are being sourced from. So that's something that escrow is going to have to provide. It's required every 30 days, or you have to provide this reporting information. And if they're not getting this information, they're not going to close the transaction. So it's a huge change for us.
Does this form FRR-PA ask all the questions that you?
It references certain things in terms of the detail. I'd say that right now we're still working on the details in regards to how we're going to manage this and how we're going to submit this to FinCEN. So, but it's just a matter of being aware at this moment in time. So by the end of this month, we all should be well versed in regards to what this is, including myself. So I have a theoretical idea exactly how this is going to be managed, but everybody's trying to work this out, how we're going to comply with the reporting requirements and how we're going to be getting this information. But I think more importantly, you have a buyer that's saying, I'm going to pay all cash, unless it's an individual, then there's going to be the burden of these additional reporting requirements required before that transaction can close. As a matter of fact, the form, the FRR, whatever it is, the FinCEN form, anti-money laundering form, it should be sent by a listing agent at the time of the opening of escrow, actually before, and there's a 7-day time frame in which somebody has to respond. Now, what is not known at this point in time, how long before the close of escrow must the buyer comply? There is no time frame associated with this new guideline, but if it's not provided to escrow before the close of escrow, they can't close the escrow. As a matter of fact, it could result in the cancellation of a transaction if a buyer refuses to comply with the guidelines.
What does escrow do with that information? Do they send it? So like, if it goes to escrow, does escrow just keep it or does it go to both sides?
Oh, no, it goes to FinCEN.
Okay.
It's going to be submitted to the government every 30 days.
Okay.
So
it's
with the
not like-
same month of the close of escrow or within the following month following the close of escrow, there's a new reporting requirement for any escrow holder.
So it's not like that information of like, you know, like disclosures where they go to like the seller and the buyer and that kind of thing.
Correct.
That might be
Let's say
part of a contingency,
I'm sorry, what was that?
can be part of a contingency clear out.
It's not a contingency, it's a contractual obligation. It's not if I'm the buyer, if I can't provide it, then I can cancel. No, the seller would have an opportunity to cancel. There's no question about that. I'll get you, Steve. Yes.
So this one document escrow will provide.
No, it's part of the car library.
Hard library.
That form, is it going to have all the information that's required? Not necessarily. So that's something that you want to be in contact with your escrow officer to be sure that we're getting that information early in a transaction, so we're not going down the road and it fails.
Okay. Second question is, the effective day is March 1st. Is there any way to delay like?
No. If it closes before March 1st, then it's acceptable. If it closes after March 1st, so if you enter into a 60-day transaction today, and so the close of escrow is going to be after March 1st, you're going to have to comply with this guideline. I'm sorry, Steve.
That's okay. So let's say it goes past contingency period and then the guy can't close. Is he still on the hook then for the seller able to then get the deposit, or is that can he walk away with it?
It's not a contingency. So that's another question. I don't have an answer to at this moment in time in regards to the seller keeping the buyer's deposit if the buyer doesn't or can't comply.
Or notice to perform.
Yeah, you can send, certainly one benefit is the seller, if they don't get compliance from the buyer, they can send a notice of form, cancel the transaction and move on. And in terms of it being a contingency, I have to see the new RPA that's going to be addressing this to have a complete understanding of that.
Rich, do you know of the percentage of properties that are purchased through entities?
I don't, but I can tell you this, it has grown dramatically. Dramatically. It's amazing how many entities are acquiring property. So it's not just an LLC or corporation, but it's going to be a family trust. And that is very common. So usually remember, if there's a federally insured loan, then it doesn't trigger the requirement. Okay, so let's just go through a scenario. If it's February 28th, 2026, your client is closing a $2.5 million all-cash transaction. The buyer is an LLC. Here's a problem. If you didn't include the form in the purchase agreement, you didn't explain a requirement to the buyer, suddenly March 1st rolls around, escrow calls and says, we need the FinCEN form and beneficial ownership documentation immediately. So your buyer says, I've never heard of this. And that's exactly what's going to be happening. I never had to do this before. Haven't we heard that before? I've never had to do this before. So if you have entities that are LLCs or corporations or trusts and they're paying all cash and they don't want to comply with these requirements, they have to close before March 1st. Otherwise, they're going to have to comply.
So can I ask, if there was a situation like that after March 1st and they really didn't want to do it, and they said, okay, I'm going to take out a $50,000 loan on this $3 million property, is that an acceptable loophole?
If there's a federally insured loan, then that would be acceptable. But usually they're not willing to do that. There's a whole reason behind it, because people are trying to, and not always, but some individuals are trying to launder money. And
say that like it's a bad thing.
Not if I'm successful laundering money, it's okay. But something that someone else said before, it never mattered if you had a taxpayer ID or any other information when you're paying all cash. It's just when you're selling the property, there are implications in regards to withholdings, federal and state tax withholdings. But now it's going to be affecting buyers that are paying all cash.
It's primarily the buyer side, right? Because I read it says escrow must collect buyer/seller beneficial ownership information.
Yes.
But if the seller owns it in a trust, a family trust, and the buyer happens to be just Gina Wynn is my name, I'm gonna buy it in cash. This doesn't.
It doesn't apply.
It doesn't
If it's just
apply.
you, Gina Wynn, as an individual, it does not apply.
But so it's really just the buyer side that's. going to-
Yeah, so what if it's your family trust that's buying it for all cash?
Then this was on.
Then this is going to apply, exactly. So you, your husband, you're gonna have to provide all your tax information, so on and so forth, and the source of those funds.
So could you recommend to a buyer, it's just like, I have a trust. I
Yeah.
just buy it under my name
And then
instead,
change
and
it.
then later on just change the title later on.
You could, I don't see anything wrong with that, but that's, I think there's another issue there. Is there going to be, and there's staging in regards to how the requirement could apply. And that still may fall within the category of transferring into a trust possibly. So the details are not necessarily all clear to me. They may be able to do that successfully, buy it as just Gina Wynn, and thereafter transfer it into their family trust. But it's still a sale per se, a non-taxable event. But
a normal person isn't gonna have a problem giving up their information either. Only if I'm trying to like.
I think the point is that nobody is accustomed to doing that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of information, not only that, but I think most importantly, if they have a taxpayer ID, but how many people are willing to provide the source of their funds? That's going to be a big difference for these entities. Bank account information, routing numbers, things of that nature. So that's a dramatic change.
How about Richard, the money coming from like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and the person who's the parents live here, but who's sending the money, she's Canadian.
Who are they sending it to? Are they sending it directly to escrow? Well, that's a good question. If they're sending it to their children, for example, then the children is going to have to just provide their bank account information. If they're buying it through an entity that child owns, if it's an entity outside of the country, they're going to have to provide the source of funds. From outside of the country. But I would say for the most part, we probably don't have many transactions in which funds are not patriated here already that we're going to proceed with. Usually sellers, at least from my perspective, if I'm representing a seller, if the funds aren't in the US, I'm probably not likely to accept somebody's offer because I don't really know if they can bring those funds to the US successfully.
So does it make it different if it goes straight to escrow or the bank account?
I know it doesn't matter which way it goes. It's just they're going to have to source the funds. So we want to make sure that you're using the FRR form as a matter of standard practice. Educate your buyers up front as soon as you know it's an all cash LLC entity or trust purchase. So federal law requires them to provide this information. So keep that in mind. Your timeline could expand in regards to the close of a transaction. And we want to provide any last minute scrambling. And why do we want to do that? Because we want them to look at us and think, okay, we've closed this thing smoothly. And if I've managed the transaction well, where do we think referrals come from? So it's very critical that we understand these things. Keep escrow informed if there's going to be a situation such as this. And I'm willing to bet that excluding everybody in this room, most of your competitors are not going to understand this rule. And it's going to cause substantial problems. As Carlos asked me, how many transactions are associated with entity buyers? I can't give you a percentage, but it has grown dramatically. It is very common in today's world.
Is it more common for entity cash purchases?
It is. It is. Very common. And then, could you go to the next slide? Yes. Okay. Assembly Bill 723 and photo disclosure compliance. This law has been on the books, but 2026 is when it really needs to be a core part of your workflow. The law requires disclosure of digitally altered and AI-generated property images. Here's what that means. if you're listing a property and the photos have been enhanced. Color correction, brightness adjustments, removing clutter, virtual staging, you disclose it. If you are using AI generated images or computer renderings, you disclose it. If you're using drone photography with adjusted lighting or colors, disclose it. Where you disclose, well, on the MLS listing, on your marketing materials, on your brokerage website, social media, anywhere those photos appear, the disclosure needs to be clear and accessible. So let's take a positive outlook on this. So does this mean I can't enhance photos? No, oops, absolutely can enhance photos, but you must disclose. Does it hurt you to disclose? Not if you're doing it right. I think from one perspective, I see, well, a lot of photos that are dramatically enhanced, and then when a buyer walks in and they see that the property is not represented fairly as in the photographs, they probably lose all trust into whomever is marketing their property. So that's something to give consideration to. So recommendations, be authentic. So professional photography, yes, do that. Good lighting, good composition, clean presentation, but be honest with your representation. So show the property as it actually is, make it look as good as possible. And then use drones. That's something that really I think people like to see. It gives them a whole idea of the layout of the land. But if you're not representing the property as it really is, you're probably doing yourself disfavor. They're probably going to look at that, walk in and think this is not the same property as shown in the photos. But if you do alter photographs, you have an obligation to give notification or disclosure.
Is disclosure to the public that can be right on descriptions or agents?
Yes, you could do that. As a matter of fact, the agent's remarks, it would not be appropriate disclosure. But on the MLS, for example, you can actually include a description of those photographs. So you might consider just doing something like that. I don't think that anything that we use currently is really facilitating this whole disclosure issue in regards to digitally altered photos, unfortunately.
When you
I see
upload
that
each
when you
photo
use-
into the MLS, it allows you to write a description for each
You
photo.
can write a description.
It's a software in the MLS that they use Stage, and they put
You should.
they put a automatic digital stages.
Correct.
for
Digitally staged.
for purposes or something.
Exactly. If you just say digitally staged, right, on the footer of that photograph, I would say, excuse me, you're going to be compliant.
So I saw there I saw some agent, when I look at the MLS, some people just say that this is vacant, this is just digitally put something. Some people already put that one, but not the photo.
Vacant?
Yeah,
They don't put the photos?
Yeah.
Well, that's okay.
they just put in the description of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never seen anybody put the information.
Well, I have there since when I've looked at photos, sometimes it'll be descriptive, family room, kitchen, bedroom 1, 2, 3. So that's typically what people have done in the past. I usually think that most people don't take the time out to identify each and every photo, but that is going to be the only way to not only protect yourself, but the seller. As if somebody makes a claim and that you digitally altered a photo and you didn't give the appropriate disclosure, it's probably just not you that's going to be at risk, but most likely the seller, because anything that's on the MLS supposedly is a representation of the seller.
Didn't it also say that you have to include the original image and the virtually staged
That's an
image?
option. I don't know how you do that on the MLS. I guess you can actually, but still, if one is digitally altered, you might say digitally altered and the actual photograph is number 35 or found within the library of photographs. You might do something like that.
And then interestingly enough, they don't have a fine associated with this yet.
Not yet. I think it's more than a fine. It's a violation of California law.
Yeah.
So it's not just a violation of the rules and regulations.
Can I just write to Word, each one altered?
Digitally altered.
That's it.
I think as long as you have something there, you're probably covering your ass. I'm not exactly sure if that is sufficient yet at this point in time. I'm sure we're going to find out how this is going to be tested. as we go along, since this is all new. But you know it's going to be tested.
I'm curious, Rich, with drone photographs, sometimes you have the neighbors blurred out.
Digitally altered. Yeah. I think if you crop it, that's not digitally altered per se. You didn't modify what's shown in the photograph, so that might be acceptable, right? You can do that.
It's funny you have to disclose that the neighbors' houses don't really look blurry like that.
Oh God, let's see. So the next slide, please. Any questions about that? Obviously, you know, we're all learning in regards to how we're going to manage that appropriately. So seller success. Here's the reality in Orange County right now, and I'll be very direct. The old playbook, once again, doesn't work. Irvine reality check. Median price is $1.5 million. Average days on market, 73 days. So overpricing is killing velocity in Irvine. Why? Irvine is school driven. Parents have a specific budget. They know what they can afford. An overpriced home doesn't attract them. It attracts nobody. So your seller lists at 1.75 million, thinking schools justify premium. No one comes, weeks pass. Then you reduce the price. Now the home has been on the market for 60 days and just got a price cut. And buyers wonder, why did they reduce? What's wrong with it? You created negative momentum. You've destroyed value. A winning strategy, price it right from day one. These are discussions you need to have with your sellers. Price it to the actual market, maybe even slightly under to create immediate demand. You get immediate showing activity, multiple showings possibly in many cases. You still get offers over the original asking price if the property is positioned well and the market knows it's fairly priced. That's how you create velocity. And that's how you create value for your seller. And that's how you're going to create referrals. So tell your seller this. We price right. We create movement. We sell fast at market price. That's better than listing high, sitting for months, than reducing. Trust the pricing strategy. Tustin momentum. This is where you're going to make money in 2026. First-time buyers are seeking value. Tustin delivers that. Inventory is moving. Buyers are active. Pricing is the key. Price it right, it moves. Price it competitively, not underpriced, but right. And you create competitive activity. Buyers feel urgency. Your seller benefits. More than that, Tustin is an emerging market. Agents who build expertise in Tustin now are going to own that market in 2026. Newport Beach shift. Once again, median price $5.75 million. Average days on the market 150 days. Median active inventory 33, and this is important. 26% of listings have been repriced. Your Newport Beach seller needs to understand this is a long game. Luxury buyers exist, but they're not rushing. They're selective. Your property needs to be flawless. Your pricing needs to be realistic. Your timeline needs to reflect that the market is moving slower. Plus, marketing needs to be much more sophisticated. And then balanced market reality, the price to list ratio of 98.74% tells you one thing. Over asking price is gone. If your seller expects to get over asking, you need to have a discussion with them. Homes are selling at or slightly below asking, and that's assuming it's realistically priced. So set the expectations. You go to the next slide, please. And once again, marketing and compliance, authentic photography, that should be your baseline. Professional photographers, good lighting, clean property, honest representation. I suggest no virtual staging, no heavy Photoshop adjustments, no AI generation, just excellent photography of the real property. I think that builds buyers' trust. And that's what you need, because they're going to walk in, they're going to see a property that looks nothing like the photographs that you published. And drone photography. I think that's probably a must in every single market right now. And then lifestyle marketing. This is the emotional piece. You're not just selling a house, you're selling the Orange County experience. For Irvine, the home puts you in a top-rated school district with excellent academic programs, strong athletics, and a vibrant community. For Tustin, emerging neighborhood, excellent value, first-time buyer friendly, strong appreciation potential for Newport Beach, coastal luxury, exclusive community, refined lifestyle, ocean access, premium amenities. That's compelling. That moves homes. So remember, we're talking about some market expertise. You can't just gauge an area simply because of what Orange County itself is doing. You have to look at the details of that submarket. And then next slide, escrow coordination and compliance checklists. So I talk to escrow offers very frequently, as a matter of fact. The frustrating comments I hear, or the most frustration I hear, is the agent waited until 2 weeks to tell me this is a complex transaction. So last minute surprises don't help anybody, as a matter of fact. What it does do is delay closings. It causes angry clients to be ahead of the transactions, as a matter of fact. Now with the new FinCEN reporting requirements, that's going to be something just like we experienced, what, a year and a half ago with the change in the commissions. Buyers never understood they had to sign a contract. It's still taking now a long time for that to filter through the system, that they have to sign an agreement with you if you're representing them in regards to a purchase transaction. And they still won't do it. And now they may have to give up additional information. Investors, I can see them complaining about the fact that I'm going to have to give underlying documentation. We hear about land trusts often. They use this false identity that's not registered with the SACE, calling itself a land trust. Well, those individuals, they're going to have to provide all of the underlying information, taxpayer ID, so on and so forth, but the individuals, they have the authority to act on behalf of these land trusts. So you can bet that that's going to cause transactions to, at minimum, take a lot longer, or they're going to fail. And then something else, review your title reports. Okay, it's not glamorous work, but there could be issues on a title report that could cause a transaction to fail. That's something else you should be doing, and it creates credibility with your sellers. Sorry, saying something, John?
No.
Okay, wasn't sure. The FinCEN reporting is certainly going to be very, very critical based upon the number of transactions I see in which it's an entity buyer, as a matter of fact. So we'll go through, have training on the FinCEN reporting, so you're aware of it. We want you to be experts in that. But then also, what should you be doing? Well, build your database, who's selling. And these are not all glorious things or glamorous things that you should be doing, but who haven't you contacted in a while? Should you be contacting? Maria, what do? You gave a presentation just recently, as a matter of fact.
I did.
Yes.
I do easy stuff. So like,
tell us what's easy for you.
Social media. So like your people, like you know, they have a baby or they have any kind of like life-changing event. You just like their photos, you comment on it, you know, if you know they had a little one, maybe like, I don't know, send them an Amazon gift card. Or,
do you call them?
I do call them.
How often?
I mean, it's more text message.
That's okay.
Through calling. But even like if I see something like it's their birthday, I'll go and I'll text them, hey, happy birthday, I saw your photo on social media, or oh my gosh, your vacation looked great, or just little things, like little touches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jay, don't you look at the fourth quarter of the year as being preparation for the next year? Do you call all of your clients, past clients, during that period of time?
I did, but
you did, but what?
I did a couple years ago. But,
oh, you stopped that now.
Just to send out the postcard. Text message.
So you are texting.
Texting, but not me, just my assistant will send me. Or people just.
So that's what you chose. And I think that's probably a good way to go. People don't always want to talk on the phone, but it's just a constant reminder. How often you contact people via text message then in your client database?
Just
or
about usually once a month.
Okay.
That is just depend on some. It is just like just a New Year and Valentine.
So you're constantly making the effort to stay in contact with your past clients.
Yeah, I don't send it just to myself, but just in what the formal text.
So what about you, Sarah? What do you do to stay in contact with all your past clients and Joyce's clients?
We post, and then if they're interested or like this, and then we start to communicate again. And then we do have a big appreciation parties.
You do. They're holding an appreciation party at the Bowers Museum this coming Sunday, right?
Yes. So we appreciate all the support. So they were we did that years ago, and that's a big success. So we want to have like more business, not only the current client, but refer to all their friends and families.
But I can only assume that to get people to attend, you have to call them or some way contact them on a personal level also to get the turnout.
That's our VIP client. You really have to have a group of communication, not just text.
Yeah. You know, so we do that even for our holiday parties. We contact you directly if at all possible, right? Because I think sometimes our emails are ignored. Is that possible? You don't have to raise your hand, Maria. It's okay. So my closing thoughts. I don't think 2026 is going to be a boom year, and it's not going to be a crash year. It's going to be a year in which professionalism matters. So those that are going to succeed, well, you need to understand your marketplace. There's no question about that. If you choose a marketplace, I think you're better off choosing a marketplace if you're going to be farming actively. And if you're not choosing a marketplace, certainly you need to maintain constant contact with your friends, clients in some manner. Doesn't mean calling. Text message is very simple and it's very cost effective. And it's probably not intrusive also. They don't have to answer, but I can assure you it's a good way of reminding them when they are ready to move or make a change. And send them some information. If you have information about a submarket that you are interested and knowledgeable about, send them that information because everybody, I can't imagine anybody who isn't interested in trying to invest in real estate if they don't want to move necessarily. Everybody wants to make money. So master the requirements. So we're going to go over FinCEN again. The photos are going to be very important. I don't want to see you getting fines because at some point in time, not only is it going to be a violation of California law if you modify and don't disclose photos. In fact, if you modify those photos, but you can bet that there's going to be some type of fine associated with the MLS, with CRMLS for violation of that. You can expect that to come around.
Richard, speaking of connection and in touch with your clients, so there's any like application or like a document, so I like assume I have a client, I want to send them to advise them like about the new change of transferring money. There's anything like specific article or?
Well, actually, through your Coldwell Banker website, you can actually activate market updates for a particular neighborhood, so it can just be scheduled to go out automatically. So we can help you with that.
No, I'm talking particularly about transferring the fund from overseas to here. So because I have a few clients, usually they get their money from.
Well, transferring the funds, I mean, it's something that I can provide you that's going to give them guidance on how to do that. Is that what you're saying?
Like I try to contact with them and tell them, look, there is this kind of rule because you mentioned something about do it before March 31st, whatever.
Oh, I mean, to close a transaction if it's all cash. Well, that's a good question. I think we can send you information in regards to the FinCEN reporting, how that's going to provide you the information you're thinking about for people out of the country. Yes. I think that's a different aspect because if you're in China, you can't necessarily send more than $50,000 anyway. So there's going to be restrictions based upon a relationship between the US. But in terms of the FinCEN reporting aspects, yes, can certainly help you with that. No question about that.
Able to email us about once you guys are generated the fin report to distribute to our customers. The
report itself, how it's going to be managed, we're actually
Because we
I think
did it-
every escrow, we rely on these software providers to help us in regards to how we can manage the reporting and obtain that information. But yes, there are certainly things that we can help you with so you're more familiar with it. So you can understand exactly what the implications are for a buyer that falls into that category or someone that triggers the FinCEN reporting.
Yeah, and it would be great if our company provide us some document, like one pager, so we can distribute, we can give to our clients. So, yeah, they'll get the information correctly.
We'll help you with that. Okay. Okay. So, know your market, compliance. What I hear from agents from time to time is that they feel like clients have no respect for us in this industry. And I think if you show them your mastery in the industry, your knowledge of the compliance aspects, you're speaking to a buyer who's whether they're contemplating buying that property with all cash through an entity or not, bring up these subjects to them. It doesn't mean it's going to apply to them, but it indicates to them that you have an idea about what's taking place. And obviously compliance is very, very important to everybody. It's always compliant when they violate the law, as a matter of fact, or they have a transaction to show. But this is an opportunity for you to show just how intelligent you are and well-educated. So that's the other reason we want to be aware of everything that's taking place. So any questions before we wrap it up? Yeah. Okay.
Richard,
Yes.
I searched on the interweb.
Uh-huh.
It says 25 to 27% nationwide homes are sold through entities. And then regarding FinCEN, there's actually FinCEN.gov. Go on site. It's a great page for your clients as a resource. It has all the buttons and how to do this or that, or how to report to the government.
Yeah, it's pretty lengthy.
It's easy to read though. But a one-page PDF when you're creating that would probably be good to resource.
Okay, well, thank you, Gina. Appreciate that. But 25 to 27%, you said? Is that on the buy side or sell side, or is that a combination of both?
Just that it doesn't really break it down specifically, but this is looking at LLC, S Corp, C Corp, or any type of similar structure.
That's a huge percentage.
It's huge. I bet it's like certain areas are really larger than others, but it does say most of it's mom and pop investors.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that a huge percentage applies to California. I think there's just more of a level of sophistication in this state than many other states. Considering I'm from Ohio, I have a good understanding of that. Jonathan. All right, well, thanks for coming, everybody, and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
What are we gonna do?
Oh, the drawing. Has everybody turned their business cards in?